What's up, guys? I'm Ernie. I'm back with the Face Off Sports Network, and today we're going to dive into three of my biggest RB breakouts for the 2025 season. Let's jump right in. First guy we got, my boy Kenny Walker. So, Kenny Walker is entering year three, and he's still only 24 years old. He has flashed some serious upside in the past, despite splitting carries or dealing with some nagging injuries, right? And honestly, it feels like if these injuries, weren't in his way, it's really the only thing truly holding him back. And kind of what I mean by that is if you average out his fantasy points per game last season and you stretch it out over a 17 game season, he would have scored 280 PPR fantasy points, and that would have made him last year's RB7. So that would have had him higher than guys like Kyron Williams, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Chase Brown, James Conner, Jonathan Taylor, and Bucky Irvin. His PFF grade was a 91.2. That was elite. It actually ranked him the third highest rusher in the entire league. So he absolutely possesses some elite upside. His passing game, his passing game usage was really his biggest flaw, especially in his first two seasons. But last year with Grubb, you saw an uptick in that. So he was targeted 53 times in 11 games last year. And he posted a 24% target per route run rate. And that was tying him with top tier receiving backs like Bucky Irving. Expect to see more of the same with Kubiak. The Seahawks have also been beefing up their offensive line. They took offensive lineman in the second round last year. They took Gray Zabel in the first round this year, who I thought was the best interior lineman in the entire draft. And they also drafted a 270-pound fullback from Alabama in the fifth round. So they're gearing up to really run the football, and you could see that because in Clint Kubiak's offense, running backs have thrived. His coaching tree is known for featuring running backs in outside zone concepts. So Kubiak's offense has produced our fantasy RB1 finishes and fantasy RB10. So they also average a 12.7% target share, which is awesome for PPR. So I think if Kenny Walker stays healthy this year, he is in for a massive, massive breakout. Moving on to our second player is Omarion Hampton. So Omarion Hampton is one of my favorite rookies. I may be too high on him, but I just feel like there's so much to like in this situation. First of all, I couldn't ask for a better landing spot. Yeah, I know they signed Najee Harris, and I'm a Najee Harris fan. I think he's a very good football player, a very solid football player, but I think we know what Najee's upside is. And I thought it was interesting they signed him before the draft and they signed him to a 1 year deal. I think that was insurance just in case, if the board fell a certain way and they didn't get a running back they love. Now they have a guy that could easily carry the ball 30 times a game and rush for 1,000 yards. Because, you saw what they have. They have J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, who are pretty injury prone. And for what Harborough did with those two backs last year, it was really, really impressive. So I think Najee is more of an insurance just to, keep that smash mouth identity going, whether they didn't land the running back or the running back they draft gets hurt, right? That could always happen. So you look at the Chargers makeup, right? They have one of the best young tackle tandems in the NFL with Joe Alt and Slater. That probably, you can make an argument that that is the best, but I would still take Mailata and Lane Johnson, but this is very elite. Now, their running back, their offensive line is a top 10 unit in the NFL, and it's very young. So, like I said, Harborough's going to play smash mouth football. He's absolutely going to pound the ball this year. Omarion Hampton's play style, if you watch him in college, man, he's a violent downhill runner, and it really reminds me a lot of Nick Chubb, which is why I love this landing spot. And a fun nugget: Harbaugh recruited him to Michigan, right? But obviously that didn't happen. He went to Chapel Hill, but now they reunite in the NFL. So Harborough lands his guy. Thank you, Ryan, for that nugget. And again, this guy, he has workhorse size. He had the second most yards after contact in the entire draft. His RAS score was top 45 of all time, dating back to 1987. I would not leave drafts without him. I'm still smashing him in redraft, despite Najee. I think the upside is worth the gamble. His dynasty outlook is completely elite. Right now, he only signed a 1 year contract. And again, We know what the Chargers are going to try to do. They spent a first round pick on this kid. I think at worst, you see a 50-50 split with Najee and Hampton eventually just running away with that job. Um, and honestly, if this kid does out the gate, let's say best case scenario, he gets a full workload, he will absolutely challenge Aston Genty for top running back of this class when the year is over. And our last player for must draft running backs having a breakout season is RJ Harvey. So I think RJ Harvey is going to be the steal of fantasy drafts. The Broncos drafted him in the second round, and now you insert him into an ascending offense ran by Sean Payton. He's going to take over Sean Payton's Joker role. This was the same role Alvin Kamara had back in Sean Payton's New Orleans days. So this is an awesome, very fantasy-friendly role to have. And this was an elite landing spot. RJ Harvey was a back that I loved through the whole pre-draft process. I watched a lot of him at UCF. He is a very underrated running back. A lot of people think he's small. He's not small at all. He's a great pass catcher. He has amazing vision. So this was literally one of the best landing spots for him. A lot of people think he's undersized, but he's actually pretty much the same size as Ashton Genty. And in my opinion, he had the best vision of any running back in this class. His elite pass catching skill is going to go perfectly with the Broncos. For instance, the Broncos running backs last year were fourth in RB targets last season. And let me tell you, RJ Harvey is electric when he comes out of the backfield and catching the ball. So he's going to be Sean Payton's do-it-all back. The hype is definitely real. He has a smash pick in every format, especially PPR. And that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for joining us. I would strongly suggest drafting these running backs. They're going to help you win your fantasy leagues. Good luck.